Welcome to everyone. As the first woman to chair the Committee on Oversight, I'm particularly proud to convene this hearing on what I believe is one of the most important things we can do to ensure equality for women in our country, finally putting women in and the Equal Rights Amendment in the Constitution. Discrimination against women is a persistent problem, yet our country's fundamental document does not guarantee equality. That is why I've introduced the ERA 13 times during my career in Congress, and why I'm so committed to seeing this amendment adopted as part of our Constitution now. The Equal Rights Amendment was written more than 100 years ago by the legendary suffragist Alice Paul, who I'm proud to say was a relative of my late husband, Cliff Maloney. After decades of effort, the ERA finally passed the House in October 1971, 50 years ago this month, in a strong bipartisan vote. It passed the Senate overwhelmingly the following year. The preamble to the amendment included a 7-year time limit, and in 1979, Congress voted to extend the limit by another 3 years. By 1982, the ERA had been ratified by 35 of the necessary 38 states. Then momentum behind the amendment stalled, but that all changed in 2017 when the women's marches and the Me Too movement reminded us all that we are still a very long way from equality. In 2017, Nevada voted to ratify, Illinois followed in 2018, and Virginia in 2020. 38 state legislatures have voted to ratify the ERA, meeting the constitutional requirement. But the ERA still does not appear in the Constitution, and this has to change. Federal law directs the archivist of the U.S. to certify and publish amendments that have met the requirements laid out in Article 5 of the Constitution. This is purely ministerial duty, which should be done automatically. But under President Trump, the Department of Justice issued an opinion advising the archivist not to certify the ERA. Today, I'm releasing a letter from preeminent legal scholars stating that this Trump-era legal opinion is legally erroneous and should be withdrawn. These scholars also make clear that the time limit in the preamble to the ERA is not an obstacle to ratifying the amendment. This time limit was not included in the amendment itself, and there is no time limit on equality. I strongly agree with the scholar's assessment that time limit is likely non-binding and that Congress clearly has the authority to extend or eliminate time limits if necessary. So today, I call on President Biden, who is a true champion of women, to withdraw this flawed legal opinion and allow the archivist to certify the ERA without delay. I also strongly support the legislation led by my colleague and friend, Congresswoman Spear, that the House passed to eliminate the time limit from the ERA. This would remove even the shadow of a doubt about the ERA's validity. I urge the Senate to take up this bill without further delay. After 100 years, women cannot wait any longer for full constitutional equality. The ERA is not merely a symbol. It will make a real difference in the lives of women and people who face discrimination, sexual violence, and unequal pay. The pay gap between men and women has persisted for decades, with the average woman being paid 80 cents for every dollar paid to men. For women of color, the gap is even wider. In order to make the same income as a man earned last year, a Latina woman in this country has to work an extra 10 months until today, October 21st. That is shameful, and it shows that the current legal standards are not adequate. In 1994, Congress passed the historic Violence Against Women Act, authored by then-Senator Joe Biden, which included a right for victims of sexual violence to sue their attackers. But when a young woman named Christy Brancala tried to sue her rapist, where there was no dispute, it was a gang rape, one even confessed, the Supreme Court struck down that part of the law as unconstitutional. More recently, a federal court in Michigan overturned a law banning female genital mutilation, which is an internationally recognized human rights violation. The judge found it was unconstitutional to ban female genital mutilation. What a disgrace for this to happen in the United States. With the ERA, Americans who go to court to challenge discrimination will have a fighting chance. Today, equal rights can be too easily rolled back depending on the ideological leanings of Supreme Court justices, but constitutional amendments are permanent. We can't always control who's on the bench, but we can change the document they are tasked with interpreting so that it better reflects the equality that all Americans deserve. This committee will continue to work to put the ERA in the Constitution. I am very pleased now to recognize Congresswoman Jackie Speer, the sponsor of H.R. Res. 17, and ERA champion, for a brief opening statement.
Thank you, Chairwoman Maloney, for holding the first full committee hearing on the Equal Rights Amendment in over 40 years. I know that when the ERA is finally added to our Constitution,